Hi everybody and welcome to Music Worth Buying. My name is Robert Kinsler.
My name is TJR.
Now we're here today sadly to reflect on the passing of Fats Domino, a truly legendary and groundbreaking father of rock and roll, you know, one of the true founders of the genre.
Yeah. I don't think he gets as much credit as, say, Jerry Lee Lewis would, or Little Richard, and not that they're not deserving. Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis,
Chuck Berry,
they're all deserving.
Even Buddy Holly. I think he's maybe because he lived so long.
Yeah.
You know, and for whatever reason, but when you look upon truly, I mean, his first big single in 1949, "The Fat Man," many critics consider that the first rock and roll song. I mean, a lot of times people say, "Oh, yeah, the '50s is," but I mean, his single was recorded in 1949, "The Fat Man," and many people do consider that first, and it was very successful. I think a gold or platinum selling single. Many people do consider that the first rock and roll record. And other than Elvis Presley, of all the founders in that 1950s rock that we were just mentioning, he sold the most records too. But he has been overlooked, I think, sadly.
Yeah, I think we tend not to think of him that much when it comes to that. But let's talk a little bit about his. We want to talk a little bit about his music and his legacy, and maybe recommend a few things for you too if you haven't really explored that deeply into his catalog. And
let's do that now. Now he's he was a native of New Orleans, very well known for being part of the New Orleans musical community. Lived in the 9th Ward most of his life. During Hurricane Katrina, actually, there was reports that he had been killed. Somebody even on his home had put "Rest in Peace," I guess. But then the Coast Guard did ultimately find he was alive. They were able to rescue him, and all his pianos, all his gold records, all these special awards he had been given over his lifetime were lost. Many were replaced by the Recording Academy and other people. He was truly beloved and so influential. I mean, over the years, everybody from Elvis Presley to John Lennon to Cheap Trick covered his songs and had hits with them. You know, and many people don't know Fats Domino's last hit that he had was a cover of the Beatles' Lady Madonna, and Paul McCartney over the years has always said Lady Madonna, that whole thing with the pounding piano, was inspired by Fats Domino to try to write that type of song. You know, in 1968, that was his last entry into the top 100. When Fats Domino had a cover of that. So his hits did range from late 40s to the late 60s, but his influence has extended all the way to today. You know.
Yeah, there is, and I guess maybe this is a good time to transition into some of our recommendations.
Yeah, let's do that.
That if you really want to kind of get an idea of the measure of influence that he had, there's a CD here we want to recommend for you
called "Going Home." And this came out in 2007 in response to what happened to Fats Domino and other people in New Orleans. It was kind of, as I recall, it was a fundraiser to raise money, and this is all these amazing artists that cover all songs that either Fats Domino wrote or songs that he had hits with and he kind of broke. So it starts with John Lennon. Now obviously John Lennon passed away in 1980, but it's his version of "Ain't That a Shame" that appeared off his rock and roll album in '75.
Yes.
But it also has new covers
tracks.
from Tom Petty, from God Los Lobos, I mean, Ben
Lenny
Harper,
Kravitz,
Lenny Kravitz, Randy
Joss
Newman.
Stone.
Yeah, just amazing. I mean, and some of these versions are terrific, and I think they are being very much trying to tap into what Fats Domino did.
It's a good. What I noticed about this album as I listened to it, it starts out first where you've got a number of artists who are basically just staying faithful. You know, and then somewhere around midway through, it starts to shift gears. And you've got some artists that are now really pushing these songs in different directions. And I think that kind of starts when there's a song, and I forget the title off the top of my head, Lenny Kravitz does, where he really pushes it in a very different direction.
Yeah, Whole Lot of Lovin'.
Okay, and then it just keeps going from there, where you've got artists really kind of pushing these songs in different directions. I kind of wonder if that was a deliberate on the part of the producer of the album. To kind of start it first very faithfully with some of the covers that you hear, like Paul McCartney's cover is very faithful.
Very faithful. Yeah.
Elton John's cover is very faithful. Well performed. I'm not saying these are bad, but they're all well done. But then it starts to kind of slowly shift gears where the artists really start going off in different directions, and it just goes to show not only the influence that he had on so many different artists. I mean, B.B. King's on this here. A huge amount of artists. It kind of goes from being very much like a blues album to suddenly being very eclectic in how the covers go off in different directions. And so it really just goes to show how much you can do with these types of what we consider to be basic, blues,
rhythm and blues, kind of New Orleans rock.
These motifs that get repeated over and over again, and how much you can change them up and how much you can do with them.
But
also just a huge influence just by the wide range of artists on this. So let's play something.
Yeah, let's play something. I was going to say, because let's maybe play a little bit of one of the songs that is more true. Now I think everybody's probably heard John Lennon, Ain't That a Shame. Maybe we play something else. Should we play Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, I'm Walking? Because I don't think as many people everybody knows Tom Petty, but I don't know how many people, even Petty fans, have heard this. So let's play a little bit of that one. Okay.
Sounds good to me. Let's do it.
And I'm lonely as I can be, and I'm waiting for your company, and I'm hoping that you'll come back to me. Well, what are you gonna do when the well runs dry? You're gonna sit right down and cry. What are you gonna do when you say bye-bye? All you're gonna do is dry your eyes. I'm walking, yes indeed, and I'm talking about you and me, and I'm hoping that you'll come.
Now I think this is the second song on the 2-disc tribute, and again, it's Tom Petty's voice, obviously. It's Tom Petty's backing him up, but it's very much faithful to Fats' original version. Very pleasing. It has kind of that fun, exuberant spirit that Fats Domino had in his music, always had with the piano, and it has the great sax in there.
That's the only thing different that you wouldn't have with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers is the saxophone.
The saxophone,
otherwise, though, very faithful. But now let's kind of let's move to a very different cover.
Okay.
And here's someone that you wouldn't think of when you think of Fats Domino. You wouldn't think of Robert Plant, would you? So let's listen to Robert Plant cover Fats Domino tune. Check this out.
Spend the rest of my day without any care. Everyone understands me in the valley of tears.
Well, that was Robert Plant, backed by the Soweto Gospel Choir, performing Valley of Tears. And actually, Robert Plant's on 2 tracks on this tribute, isn't he?
Yes, he is. He's on 2 tracks, which is, unprecedented.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think he's the only artist that does have that honor. But, I don't even think we mentioned Neil Young's on this tribute.
Yes.
Los Lobos is on this tribute. Bruce Hornsby's on here. Bonnie Raitt. I mean, Dr. John, who's another well-known New Orleans-based artist. I mean, it is really incredible when you think about all the people influenced and wanted to give back to him and his legacy while he was alive, and I think he did know how much he was loved by the musical world and everything.
Well, hopefully this album showed him, because this was released while he was still alive, and I think. But getting back to this cover here, I'm impressed with the way this was interpreted. It was actually, and there's a strong African musical roots influence to this version. It's very rich, in my opinion, and incredibly uplifting.
Oh yeah.
We do want to recommend, if maybe you're only familiar with the hits. So first, if you just want to kind of get an idea of how much influence he's had on music, this is a great way to get that idea by listening to this, number one. So we're going to recommend this for you very highly if you want to explore the legacy of Fats Domino. But we should also mention an album that has actually Fats Domino on it.
Yeah, exactly. This is an album that I originally was sent reviewed back in 2015. It's called Thrillin' in Philly. Now, what happened with Fats is obviously he had that initial period of tremendous success throughout all the 1950s and into the early 60s. Then there were, everybody got into the Beatles and the British Invasion and the Rolling Stones, and kind of some of those original rockers were kind of pushed aside. But toward the end of the 60s, early 70s, there was this kind of, even with young people, this re-examining of rock and roll and its roots. People got back into the original heroes, the groundbreaking artists that started it. And Fats Domino had a resurgence, not necessarily for his recordings of the time, but definitely on the concert circuit. I think, as I recall, he was playing more than 100 concert dates a year.
I think, yeah, well, there was a huge interest in the 70s in general with the 50s, with that decade, and that was evidenced. I think part of that may have been started. I could be wrong, but part of that may have been started when George Lucas released American Graffiti, and that film, I think, kicked off a huge amount of the resurgence.
And Happy Days didn't hurt as well, did it?
Well, yeah, I mean, Happy Days was basically a TV response to American Graffiti. It was basically, you know, well, American Graffiti is a huge movie. What can we make that will, you know, cash in on that? Might be a good word to use, but that certainly also helped to revive a lot of 50s rock and roll, was that TV show. So, yeah, a lot of these artists saw second wind, and so did Fats Domino.
Yeah.
But this is, let's talk a little more about this album. This album was a live album.
Live album, yeah.
Now, I was thinking, why are we recommending this versus one of his albums from the 50s? And I think one of the reasons is because, first of all, it's a really good live album.
Great live,
and studio albums in the 50s were basically different from the way we think of studio albums now, where you're doing overdubs and you're trying to create this one particular recording that's perfect. Whereas back in the 50s, you were basically just trying to get that one perfect live take. And so I think that this will capture the spontaneity and the energy of it possibly better than maybe even some of those, you know, original 50s recordings.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think this, and it's you listen to it, and he was in his mid-40s already when he recorded this album. Yet he sounds dynamic, energetic, and there's just a real power to the songs and his performance and his personality. Whereas it might not in a like you're saying with these singles where they're having to so carefully try to get these songs right the first take. But here he can be more himself, and he sounds like he's having a great time, and the audience is responding. Just it's an explosive
you get that
performance.
Audience, you get the energy that comes from having an audience respond to you.
And all the songs that you love by him, whether it's Blueberry Hill, Please Don't Leave Me, you know, Ain't That a Shame, everything's on here. All his big songs that you love, delivered by him with a band in a live setting, and it's just great. And I don't, you know, you have to wish, and I don't know if you have to wish that cameras were rolling too, and there'd be a, you know, somebody had made a film of it as well. I don't know if that exists, but
probably not.
But the energy on this performance is great, and you know, I think the important thing to say is, you know, now pretty much almost every one of these legendary artists from the 50s, you know, we lost Chuck Berry, obviously Elvis Presley and Buddy Holly and Eddie Cochran. Many of them have been gone for many years, but it was such a, without this there wouldn't have been the Beatles and the Stones and all the stuff that came after. This is where it all started. And Fats Domino is about as true to the origins as you can get, you know.
Let's check out a track from this.
Yeah.
They call me the fat man, 'cause I went to a town. On the ground they love me, 'cause I know my way around. I was standing on the corner of Rampart Canal. I was watching North Trail Gal.
You know, the original studio recordings are everywhere. There's countless CD collections you can find that have these recordings, and of course you can stream them on streaming services now, all the major ones like Tidal, Spotify, and Apple Music. What I found interesting was that this album and
this album
and both these albums, I tried to find these albums on streaming services. I couldn't find them anywhere. You can stream them on YouTube. There are official YouTube playlists that you can stream them on. You're going to get ads before each song, you know. But otherwise, though, that's one place you can stream them. Otherwise, you're going to have to look for these CDs and order them probably from Amazon or what have you. But we've chosen this live album because it's something you just can't find everywhere. And
it's great performances. You know, it was really good. I know toward the end, toward his final performances, which he didn't do too many in the years leading up to his death, but they were very short. Sometimes they'd be 30 minutes. This is a longer performance. You get more songs, and I think
full-on concert.
Yeah, it's a full-on concert, and it shows him and his songs in a really good way. That I think that you're going to treasure that. And you know, we wanted to kind of wrap up this kind of tribute to Fats Domino. Very sad that he's gone and all that. But you know, he was this really he's been in the shadow, like we said earlier,
very much in the shadow
of Elvis Presley and Chuck Berry and Jerry Lee Lewis and Little Richard. He wasn't this extravagant personality, maybe like those guys, you know.
And maybe that's why he's kind of not been as credited as much or as noticed as much.
And got as much recognition that he deserved,
Yeah.
even though he was even in some of the early rock and roll movies, as I recall, and stuff. But he didn't have that. But you know, he was one of the first artists to really bring together young black people and white people into the audiences.
Yeah.
You know, he was a crossover artist. He brought this New Orleans R&B and kind of fused it with blues and became rock and roll. And he was like at the ground floor of all that happening.
Absolutely.
You know.
So, well, hopefully, you know, if you hadn't thought much of Fats Domino, hopefully this has helped increase your help you start to begin to develop an appreciation, and you'll go out and explore more of his music. And hopefully, if you already were into Fats Domino, we hope you appreciate this video, and we hope you will share your thoughts about the music and legacy of Fats Domino. Everybody, please share your comments. We're looking forward to checking them out. And we just want to thank you all for watching.
Thank you very much, and we do miss Fats.
We do. Take care. Bye-bye.
I found my thrill on Blueberry Hill.